Hello all, in this video we're going to talk about checks. We're going to talk about how to process them, some key points, and we're going to talk about this from both the technician perspective and also from the office perspective. So let's go ahead and start with technicians. First off, technicians, you have a black binder for a reason. So that's that great big binder that has, it's like a zippered binder, 3-ring binder, and it has your safety data sheets and then also your labels in it. It has a pocket, and that's where your checks go. You have that for a reason. And that's because we want to keep your checks nice and organized. A couple places where your checks do not go. Okay, they don't go up on your dash, they don't go on your seat, they don't go on, the center console for a little while until you get around to it. Your checks go in that binder immediately. So as soon as you come out, you put them in your binder right now. There's a lot of obvious reasons. First off, a check has people's secure information, their account number, the routing number, and their name. So you want to keep that tucked away where it's secure and it's hidden. The other thing is you don't want to fold checks ever. Okay, you just want to keep them nice and pristine. We have a scanner in the office and we scan those checks through, and if they come in all folded or wrinkled, they're not going to scan correctly. And if that happens, there's a good chance that if the account number gets scanned incorrectly, if the office doesn't catch it, which there's a good chance that they won't, we'll send that to the bank and then it will get returned for closed account or NSF. And if that happens, we will incur a fee. So basically just understand, if you fold one of our checks, it's probably going to cost the company $15. So don't do that. The other thing is record it in Gorilla Desk immediately. So as soon as you get that check, you need to record it right now so that that customer has a record on their file inside of their account that has a record of that payment. Like most points of your job, you need to slow down and ensure that you're doing a good job. So again, the checks don't go on the seat or wherever. Go slow and do a good job the first time. The other thing I'm going to mention is that in your QRH, you have a checklist of things that you need to do when you're back at the office. And one of those things is deposit your checks. And so every time you are at the office, you need to remember to get your checks and process them, put them in the folder where they go in the office so that they can get processed. Customers don't like having their checks just sit out there for an indeterminate or indefinite or a long period of time. When they write a check, they want it to clear right now. So again, go slow, do a good job, process them immediately, and don't fold them. Now, from the office's perspective, let's talk about scanning checks. And this is good for the technicians to understand how this works, and you'll understand in just a second why you don't want to fold them. So when you're scanning your checks, you want to do same day if possible. Now, scanning checks is not it's not a super urgent task. And so if you get slammed on a Monday, I understand, and you just don't get around to doing checks and your time on your clock is over, that's fine, do them the next day. But every time it's possible, do an order, do a batch. The other thing that I don't want to see happen is I don't want it to get procrastinated and then have the office start to process checks once a week. That's not okay. I understand if here and there, occasionally because of high loads, we miss a day. But as a general rule, those checks need to be scanned on a daily basis. Scanning issues, when you run that through our scanner, if there's a fold or a crinkle, you need to verify that check scanned correctly. So you need to look at the numbers that were scanned and what the scanner thought what the numbers were, and verify that against the check to make sure they're correct. The other thing is, we're going to look at this really quick. Penguin will likely incur a fee. When you're dealing with checks, it's one of those deals where if you do it wrong, it's probably going to cost us money, meaning that we're probably going to incur a fee. So if you scan a check and the number scans incorrectly, the checking account number, we incur a fee. Even though it doesn't matter if it's our fault or whatever, the check was already wrinkled, it doesn't matter. If we send a check into the bank and it has the wrong checking account number, we incur a fee. It's not a big fee, but it's a fee and we want to avoid it. So the other thing I want to do really quick is just look at this office manager, it's the office manual or the receptionist manual. In here, there's a bunch of information. It's under general policies currently. It may change, but if you look at checks entry into Gorilla Desk, has all our policies. checks remote deposit. So this is the checklist 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way to 29. So the steps that you take in order to deposit all those checks. Shred the checks. It's the policy of when we shred them. If there's ever a check that you can identify, right here is the policy for how you deal with that. If we ever have an NSF, so if we send a check, if we scan a check and then we get in the mail a paper from the bank that says, this check has a copy of the check and it says this was returned to us, usually it's NSF, which means it's non-sufficient funds. It means that the customer bounced a check. They wrote us a check, but they didn't have enough funds in their bank account for it to clear. When that happens, we charge the customer a $35 NSF fee. And the reason is simply because the bank charges us a fee. And I think it's $30 that we get charged. It might be $35. Essentially, we're not really making any money on that fee. We're just basically having the customer pay the fee that we got charged. And our set rate right now is $35. If that happens too often, again, you can read the policy, but if that happens too often, then we may have to do something with the customer, whatever. But if that's rare, it basically, if a customer bounces a check, it's usually just an accident. And accidents happen. Everybody's probably bounced a check. Everybody who's had a checking account has probably bounced a check at some point in their life. It's just the way it goes. One time I wrote a check and just grabbed the wrong checkbook. I'd switched banks and I accidentally grabbed the wrong checkbook for the old bank that I didn't use anymore. I'd closed the account. Wrote a great big check, and it was just an honest mistake. So we understand things happen. It's fine. But what we do is we just email the customer. There's the terminology right here, and in that email we even say, we understand mistakes happen. And then you want to follow the policy here. You go back in, you cancel their payment out, attach the fee. And that's pretty much it on checks. The main thing with checks is that you just want to do a really thorough job. Be careful. And just like most parts of your job, if you slow down, it's better to go slow and do it right than to go fast and do it wrong and then have to redo it. So that's all on checks.